For centuries, legends have told of Archimedes creating a terrifying weapon, a giant death ray that could set enemy ships ablaze using nothing more than the power of the sun. Was it just a myth born from ancient imagination, or did the great Greek inventor really harness sunlight as a weapon of war? The mystery has fascinated scientists for generations. From medieval thinkers to modern researchers at MIT, many have tried to recreate the experiment, some with surprising results. So, was Archimedes truly ahead of his time, or is the death ray nothing more than science fiction? Archimedes was born in 287 BC in the city-state of Syracuse, a powerful Greek settlement in what is now modern-day Sicily. He spent most of his life there, apart from his studies in Egypt, where he refined the mathematical and scientific knowledge that would later make him legendary. Known for his brilliance, Archimedes once declared, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I will move the world." It was more than just a boast. It was a reflection of how deeply he understood the laws of physics. And when danger came knocking, Archimedes turned that genius into weapons of war. In 214 BC, the mighty Roman army set sail to lay siege on Syracuse. Outnumbered and under threat, the city looked to Archimedes, and he did not disappoint. Using his knowledge of mechanics, he designed extraordinary war machines. From inside the city walls, the Syracusans operated what became known as the Claw of Archimedes, a massive iron contraption capable of grabbing Roman ships right out of the water and smashing them into the sea. His catapults launched heavy timbers and stones at enemy vessels from a distance, raining destruction before the Romans could even approach the walls. These inventions alone earned Archimedes a fearsome reputation. But the most fascinating of Archimedes' defenses was the one that has puzzled historians for centuries, the so-called death ray, a system of mirrors said to harness the sun itself to ignite Roman ships. According to ancient accounts, Archimedes arranged a series of polished bronze or copper shields, angling them to concentrate sunlight onto Roman ships. The ships were moored within bow and arrow range, in ancient Greece, about 60 to 300 meters away, and legend claims that the collective condensed sunlight reflected from these mirrors was powerful enough to ignite their wooden hulls, turning the blazing Mediterranean sun into a weapon of war. Whether myth or reality, the very idea captured imaginations. A man in the 3rd century BC, using solar power as a battlefield weapon. It sounds almost impossible, and yet the Romans feared it enough for the story to survive through the ages. What we do know for certain is this: Archimedes' inventions bought Syracuse precious time. The siege of the city began in 214 BC, and thanks to his war machines, the Romans were held off for nearly 2 years. For the mighty Roman Empire, used to swift conquests, it was an astonishing delay. From massive catapults and ship-crushing claws to the legendary death ray, Archimedes turned the walls of Syracuse into a fortress of innovation. His genius not only defended his people, but also left behind one of history's most enduring mysteries. Did he truly set ships ablaze with the power of the sun? The story of Archimedes' death ray is as mysterious as it is fascinating. The first known mention of it doesn't come from Archimedes' contemporaries, or even from those who lived shortly after the siege. In fact, it was the historian Galen, writing more than 350 years later, who first described how Archimedes supposedly set Roman ships on fire with concentrated sunlight during the siege of Syracuse. Earlier historians, like Polybius and Plutarch, had written detailed accounts of the siege, praising Archimedes' genius and his machines. Yet not one of them mentioned the death ray. This silence has led many scholars to view the weapon as myth, or perhaps an exaggeration added long after the fact. Even centuries later, great thinkers wrestled with the idea. The French philosopher René Descartes outright rejected the possibility of such a device, dismissing it as fantasy. To him and many others, the notion of using mirrors to burn ships seemed beyond the technological grasp of the ancient world. And yet, the myth persisted. The image of Archimedes bending the sun to his will was too powerful to be forgotten. Part of what makes the death ray so intriguing is that, in theory, it is not impossible. Electromagnetic waves of light carry heat energy. When this light strikes a reflective surface, like polished bronze, copper, or glass, it can be redirected. The smoother and flatter the surface, the less the light scatters, and the more accurately the reflected beam matches the original. So, if enough mirrors were angled correctly, it's not unthinkable that they could focus sunlight onto a target, like the wooden hull of a Roman ship, and generate enough heat to ignite it. With this in mind, and with the few historical mentions of Archimedes' death ray, scientists, engineers, and curious thinkers through the centuries have tried to answer the question, was this weapon fact or fiction? In the 18th century, French scientist Georges-Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon, tested the concept using 168 mirrors. His experiment managed to ignite wooden targets more than 150 feet away, one of the earliest demonstrations that Archimedes' idea might actually work. Buffon even presented his findings in a formal paper to the French Academy of Sciences in 1747, where he argued that concentrated sunlight could indeed produce destructive heat at a distance. In 1973, Greek scientist Ioannis Sakkas decided to put Archimedes' legendary weapon to the test. At the Skaramargas naval base near Athens, he lined up 70 mirrors, each about 5 by 3 feet in size, with a shiny copper coating. Greek sailors aimed the mirrors at a plywood mock-up of a Roman warship, placed about 160 feet away. The model was coated in tar paint, just like ancient ships often were. When the mirrors were perfectly aligned, the result was dramatic. Within seconds, the wooden target burst into flames. Afterward, Sakkas confidently declared that he had no doubt Archimedes could have used bronze mirrors in the same way to set Roman ships ablaze. In 2004, the TV show MythBusters first tested Archimedes' death ray. Using mirrors, they found the idea largely implausible, but in 2005, a group of MIT students gave it another shot. They set up 127 small mirrors, focusing sunlight onto a wooden ship about 100 feet away. After nearly 10 minutes under a clear sky, a patch of the ship finally caught fire. The experiment proved that the weapon was possible in theory, but only under perfect conditions with a stationary target. The MIT team later repeated the test for MythBusters in San Francisco. This time, the results were limited to some charring and a brief flame. Because of the slow ignition time and the need for ideal weather, MythBusters declared the death ray busted, noting that Syracuse's east-facing harbor would only allow such an attack in the morning sun, and that flaming arrows or catapults would have been far more practical. Despite his genius, Archimedes could not save Syracuse forever. After nearly 2 years of resistance, the Romans finally broke through in 212 BC. The Roman commander, General Marcus Claudius Marcellus, had specifically ordered that Archimedes be captured alive, a sign of the great respect he held for the inventor's brilliance. But according to ancient accounts, Archimedes was deep in thought, working on a mathematical problem in the sand when a Roman soldier burst in. Ignoring Marcellus's command, the soldier struck him down, ending the life of one of history's greatest minds. His death marked not only the fall of Syracuse, but also the loss of a man whose ideas were centuries ahead of his time. And while the death ray may remain more legend than fact, it continues to inspire scientists, engineers, and storytellers even today, a symbol of the boundless curiosity and brilliance of Archimedes. So, was the death ray real, or just an ancient myth? The truth may never be fully known, but the legend of Archimedes reminds us of something greater, that human imagination, when paired with knowledge, can create wonders that echo across history.